I'm Kelly Montgomery, the Director of Digital Learning and Library Services for Birdville ISD. I'm so excited to have you here and welcome you here today to another episode of the 12 Days of Innovation. And here with me as my co-host is Andrea Gray.
Yes, I'm Andrea Gray. I am an elementary digital learning specialist for Birdville ISD.
Great.
Yes, we're so excited to have Lindsey
excited.
and Carrie.
Yes, we are so excited today to have Carrie Gardner and Lindsey Hallett. So I'll let them introduce themselves and tell you all about themselves.
Well, we are so excited to be here and so honored to have been asked to be a part of this. And just a little bit about myself, I'm Carrie Gardner. We are both from the Kansas City area. We work for the Blue Valley School District as district coordinators of blended learning. We both were in the elementary world and before we came into this role. And over the summer, I did a thing. I started this Facebook group. I actually went into, I had a teacher email me a question and she said, "Hey, is there a way that I can do this?" And I thought, there has to be, but I don't know. So I went looking for the answer in a couple different groups I'm a part of, and no one had like specific Canvas knowledge. And I did a quick search for an elementary Canvas group on Facebook and couldn't find one. And so just like on a whim, I was like, I'm just going to start a group.
Why not?
Why not? And so of course I'm like texting Lindsey. I'm like, I just did this thing. I started a group, who knows? And I posted it in a couple other groups I'm a part of. I'm just like, hey, if anyone knows of a different group, let me know. I'll close down mine and join yours. And no one really said anything. And then I just kept getting membership requests and membership. I'm like, this thing is growing. I'd like would text Lindsey updates like, I have 500 people. I have 1,000 people. And I thought that was just crazy.
Like, who are these people?
Right? Who was joining my group? And then I was like, Lindsey, you gotta, and Lindsey was off Facebook. So I kind of turned her back to the dark side. Like, I need you back on Facebook. And I don't do anything without Lindsey anymore. We have that, back and forth, and Lindsey's tell me like it is. And I need that. And so when we were kind of, when I go down a rabbit hole, she brings me back up and then takes my ideas. She runs with them. I take her ideas and run with them. And it's just such a nice balance that I could not have done that group and have grown it to what it is without her. And we're like at 118,000 people now, which
Incredible.
Absolutely blows my mind. And what's kind of cool is it's turned into more of like just asking questions about blended learning and using technology in the classroom, and where it started off with a Canvas focus. And obviously a lot of the questions are still around Canvas, and it's Canvas that kind of bonds us all, that we're all using that same management system. But, there's even people posting just like questions about classroom management, or how are you handling this? How are you handling that? And it's just been really cool to see it kind of grow as a little mini community, and just see the reach of teachers that are joining us and asking questions. So, yeah.
When Carrie and I both left the classroom, we became instructional coaches for a few years before getting into this coordinating role of blended learning. And it kind of just seemed like a good next step or fit for us with this Facebook community, because everyone's wildly collaborative, and it just is such a positive, mostly positive space to kind of learn and share and collaborate together. So it's been a great experience for us to learn from others as well, but also be able to take some of that learning and help our district and our teachers as well.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I think, one thing I really love about it is the perspective on Canvas has always been, or is popularly believed, that it's just for secondary, right? And so elementary kids can't do it. But your Facebook group has brought all of us elementary teachers together where we can share ideas. So how do you see that perspective changing in your district, or what kind of tips can you give us to help us with that?
Yeah, sure. So there's like kind of moments where you're like, this is terrible for elementary. And I'm like, but it's an elementary group and I started it. And I like have a moment of like taking offense to it. And I'm like, wait, this is not personal, Carrie. Like, yes, there are things about Canvas that are not the most elementary friendly. I'll admit it. It is a tool that we started in our district for secondary. We brought it on K-12, but it was optional K-5 for the longest time. And our first year, it was just secondary focused. And it was not during a pandemic. It was a tool that we were using in the classroom with in-person students. And we required it as the grade book for those secondary teachers. So that was their only requirement though. They didn't have to do anything else in Canvas, but it had to be their grade book. And then year 2 was kind of like, okay, you've been using your grade book. Now let's show us this cool other thing that it can do. And about that same time, once we kind of got secondary off and running, we brought our elementary teachers on. And some of them had started to dabble in it already because it had been this optional tool that they could use. And what was kind of cool is we could see those kind of go-getters who were like, yeah, like kind of anything new, they're the ones that are gonna like be willing to try it. And so they were our guinea pigs. And so we brought a handful of them in from around our district and said, hey, let's do this blended boot camp. And so Lindsey and I collaborated on this project, and we did, I can't even remember now how many sessions, 3-4 sessions?
3-4, yeah.
I don't know, my memory is terrible nowadays. But yeah, we did 3 or 4 sessions, and we focused on blended learning strategies. And, like taking, a discussion, a class discussion. And then we looked at how could you use Canvas to elevate that? How could you use Canvas to help you work smarter and not harder? And it really can be done with any tool. Canvas happens to be our LMS, but it's really looking at those digital tools and how you can take strategies that you've been using in your classroom. They're your like tried and trues, your go-tos, and how can you then take what's available in the digital space and allow that to help you help your students. We think about a class discussion. You may have that student that never raises their hand. I wasn't her, but you may have that kid that never talks in class, and now all of a sudden you put this online discussion. You've allowed for that voice to be heard, that voice to be validated by a like or by a comment by another classmate. And then the next time you have that in-person discussion or a follow-up from that online discussion, maybe that student is sharing. Maybe they've had the confidence builder in doing it in a digital space, that now they feel comfortable doing it in an actual physical space. So we just really looked at those kind of, again, tried and true strategies that you're already using, and then how we could use Canvas or any digital tool to elevate that. And from there, as kind of our front runners of using Canvas, we're kind of figuring that out. The next year, we brought on all of our elementary teachers, K-5, and we moved to standards-based grading. So it was like a huge shift for us. It's a shift in grading practices, and then it's a shift in the platform that we're using to even report those practices. Our teachers took on so much that year. But again, their base level of using Canvas was just as their grade book. And then enter COVID. And all of a sudden, Canvas is this tool that we have to use. And luckily they'd had their toes kind of in the water of it. And in that second year, we did a Canvas boot camp. So first year we did a blended boot camp. Next year we did a Canvas boot camp. It was more of like the how-tos, the clickety-clicks. Like you have to learn how to use a tool. And I think that that's something with Canvas in this pandemic that we've seen in so many, districts of teachers that have posted in our Facebook group, is it was the break the glass emergency. We've got to roll something out. We need a learning management tool. And so there wasn't time for let's look at those blended strategies. Let's look at those clickety clicks. Let's teach you how to use this tool. It was, here's your flotation device. Get out there in this virtual sea and do what you have to do to survive. And so it's just, it's been interesting for us to kind of see, yes, this is a tool that works really well at the secondary level, but it's also a tool that, because we've needed it in this pandemic, and I think because it is a blank canvas, that it can be customized to fit an elementary need. And I'm really hopeful that once we move out of the break the glass moment, that our teachers will be able to see how it can be used face-to-face and in a in-person environment. So, and I think Lindsey maybe was going to tag on just a little bit to this as well.
Yeah, and so we want them to see the benefit of Canvas and all it can do outside of a pandemic. And so last year and the year before, when we were doing our boot camps, we were always showing a primary example and an intermediate example, so we could show that it can be successful at all levels. And we always made sure we were using our curriculum and our district resources, because a lot of questions we get are, where are you finding all of these resources? Where'd you find that article and that story and those images? And we always wanted to show we're using what we have at our fingertips, and we're not having to totally reinvent the wheel or spend hours searching for resources. We're just kind of curating and using those resources within the LMS. And so our primary example in our boot camp was really looking at the teacher curating holiday videos as students were studying about or learning about holidays around the world. And then after those videos, they were launching the students to other resources outside of Canvas, such as Epic. And then students were able to come back into Canvas and have those share out moments with a video response. And sometimes for our younger learners, typing responses or answers or even taking pictures and submitting those is maybe a few extra steps than what they're ready for. So that video response is really powerful for our little ones. And then our intermediate example was really having, videos and simulations and articles for our more advanced learners, and really having them go back to that powerful tool of discussion and allowing every student voice to be heard, and also giving and receiving that feedback from their classmates and their teacher. So we really focused in on showing how it can be utilized K-5, even though they had at that point really only heard of it at the secondary level.
That's great. That's really great. Yeah, we find that media tool so helpful. And there are so many things that you can add on to Canvas or integrate in, but sometimes just those tools that are already built into Canvas, keeping it simple and, using those tools is sometimes the easiest and the best thing. It sounds like what you're saying is that not only is Canvas powerful for the pandemic, but that we don't need to abandon it once the pandemic is over. That, blended learning is a powerful strategy and approach that we need to incorporate. So talk to us about blended learning and maybe what it looks like in your district.
Yeah, so blended learning in our district, I'm going to be completely honest with you. Right now, we have kind of thrown the baby out with the bathwater because we are truly in that survival mode. And it's a little bit disheartening for us in this role because that is our passion. We want to be able to support teachers in that blended learning journey. And we have had to take a step back and really look at what do our teachers need right now? Mm-hmm. And they just need us to support them in really those kind of how-tos and I just deleted a whole bunch of assignments. Can you help me get them back? And things like that. And, but it does make us hopeful for the future, once we are out of this pandemic, and hopefully that's sooner rather than later, but we will have that experience within Canvas. They'll at least know more than they knew going into it. And sometimes, when we're in that pressure cooker, we end up learning a lot more than we realize. And then when we come out on the other end of it, it's kind of oh, this is easy. This is much easier than I remember it. And so, we're very hopeful. We, it's kind of funny. So we rolled out 1-to-1 devices last January, and we're done rolling them out spring break. So the timing of that was just so it's kind of funny. So our teachers had these devices, were ready to go in person, and then it's whew, and now stop. So we are really looking forward to being able to show teachers that transition back. So once we are back right now in person, and a lot of our teachers have kind of abandoned using Canvas for the moment because they are so excited to have those students back and to have those in-person experiences and to be able to take them off the device that they were so anchored to for so long. But the thing about blended learning is that it really does allow the teacher to work smarter, not harder, and to be able to do things where a teacher can clone themselves. We use, Lindsey and I have talked about this before and some other things, but, allowing them to be able to provide a station rotation where they are curating some resources, curating some learning experiences that their students can experience away from them, but it still be valuable. And, you know, we think about maybe the use of technology in the past was, I'm going to work with these 6 students at my kidney table, and I'm going to move these students over here, and I need them to be occupied so I can give these 6 students my full attention. And now it's not just drill and kill on a device. It's not, I'm just going to send you over there because I have an iPad that has this really cool app you can use. It's now, let me have you watch a video. And maybe it's a video I found. Maybe it's a video I have created. Maybe it's a video another student has created. I'm going to have you go watch that. And then I'm going to have you use maybe that same app we would have used before. But this time you're going to show me what you learned. You're going to take that kind of ownership of your learning. And instead of, and I'm not saying that there aren't times where, there's a lot of wonderful websites out there where kids practice things, and I'm not discrediting those at all. I am just saying that there are now so many more opportunities where a student can take that digital space and show their learning and show it in authentic ways, and maybe even more personalized ways than we were able to offer before, and to make that time away from the teacher that much more valuable. And within Canvas, as well as with other tools, there's so many ways to gather data. And so, it's one of those, I've got these 6 kids at my kidney table. Maybe I have a kid over there that's taking an online quiz for me. And then real quickly before the next day, I'm going to look at the results of those quiz results for my kids. And I'm going to take that data, and now it's going to drive what I do back at that table the next day. And all of a sudden that becomes so much more powerful. And not only am I seeing where my kids are at, I'm filling the time I need them to be working over there while I'm working with these students. But then I'm able to take that information and really have it transform the learning that my students are doing, and fill their time with more knowledgeable of where those students are at.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we're really focusing on helping those teachers, as we've had to kind of shift and adapt with the demands and constraints of 2020, really helping our teachers design those learning experiences rather than just those one and done activities. And so Carrie mentioned really cloning the teacher, and some of the best, blended learning in action in our district right now for the teachers that are still having their students engage in Canvas. And we have some teams right now that have said, okay, I really want to maximize my time with my students now that I have them face to face. So I'm going to create my writing mini lesson, and I'm going to record myself. So before they come to me, they're watching that mini lesson of me recording myself, or maybe it's my teammate on my team and her mini lesson, but the students are getting that direct instruction from the video. They're able to practice and then rotate to me, their teacher, to have that one-on-one conference or small group conference time to really maximize the time, but really look at the needs of the students as well.
That's a great idea.
Something Lindsey just spoke to about, there's a lot more you can now kind of divide and conquer. And teachers are so good at that already, right? Like when you're working on this team, it's like, you go do this, I'm going to go do that. We're going to come back together and it's going to be awesome. And now, I do think it can be a little more fluid, and a student may see a video by the teacher that's next door, and that's okay. And it's almost giving them potentially another learning style or learning mode, where they may be listening to their teacher say it, but all of a sudden when it's presented in another way by the teacher next door, even if it's just through video, it might resonate differently with them. And it might then provide them with something that they may have been missing when hearing it from their own teacher. And so I think that is something that's super powerful in using these digital tools, is that teachers can collaborate more, share those resources, share that burden, if you will, and be able to kind of divide and conquer. And I think it's not just good for the teachers, but I think it's also good for the students.
And it's been powerful too for some of these teachers who are creating these videos and saying, okay, this is a little bit time consuming, but I now have it curated for next year, or when that small group is ready for that mini lesson, I have it from a few weeks ago. I can reuse it and recycle it. And I think that's really powerful too, to kind of go work smarter not harder. We're always adapting and fine tuning our lessons, but when you have those recorded mini lessons, being able to throw them on an assignment or a page or in a discussion, that's just so valuable.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but sitting in some planning sessions with teachers, and I just like to sit back and listen, because some of my most reluctant technology users in the beginning or before all of this are now like, oh, I know how to do that. And I have a workaround for that. And listen to this. Let me share this with you. And I'm just thrilled. So there's going to be a bunch of those kinds of things that come from being forced, because I think some of those would have abandoned Canvas had it not been a requirement. But now they've learned how to use some tools, and they're putting all of those in their tool belts. And like you said, it's not just a station, go do something. It's meaningful, and the teachers feel comfortable with the tool, and the kids feel comfortable with the tool. So what kinds of things have you seen in your district that you don't think would have happened had we not been forced to be all remote at one point?
I actually had this moment earlier today. Carrie and I were in a professional learning meeting this morning, and they provided a Google Doc with a few articles linked and a note-taking sheet also linked to take digital notes, but you could take paper notes. And I thought back to last year and the year before when I was in an elementary school, and had I been giving that professional learning speech for learning, then I probably would have maybe printed a few copies of that article, and maybe printed a few copies of the note-taking sheet, because I would be a little bit concerned with teachers clicking on the document, maybe having two screens or split screens going on. And now I probably wouldn't think twice about it, because they've had to kind of hone and fine-tune those skills to teach their students. So I think Carrie kind of mentioned this earlier, like, we're really fine-tuning the clickety-clicks of Canvas, and next year we are really going to be primed for blended learning, and I'm so excited for that.
Yes.
And I think another huge thing that's come out of it, and I think, as teachers, we feel like we have to be that expert. We have to know, when I put that device in front of that student, I'm going to know oh, you need to click here, and then you need to click there. And I am going to be able to support that student. And now it's I don't know how to do it. And sure enough, the students figure it out, and they sometimes are teaching the teacher. And I think that that's kind of been this beautiful thing that's come of this, because teachers have had to kind of let go a little bit of that control and allow the students. And our student, I have a 4-year-old, and I think honestly, this is says a lot. I think he can use a device better than I can. And it's funny, because they really do pick up on those things very easily, much more so than us. And, we've kind of been preaching that for a while, oh, we don't give our kids enough credit. And I think teachers have now really seen that we're not giving our students enough credit. They really can pick this up and do it. So yeah, I think that's been something that's been really cool that's come out of this.
That's awesome. So when you talk about helping your teachers design for either remote or blended learning, either one, how do you help them design a learning experience versus just a learning activity?
Yeah, that is such a great question. We really do try to think about it as a learning experience, because there are so many wonderful activities out there. And not that you can't use those activities, but we really like to try to coach our coaches and our teachers to really think about, how can I take that activity and really expand it and elaborate on it. And we as a district actually just bought Seesaw as well. So we are now using both, and we very much are launch in Canvas and then land back in Canvas. Mm-hmm. And Seesaw does really have a lot of great tools that for our littles, that make it super easy for them to that limited dexterity that they might have, that kind of allows them to be able to do those things easily on a device. And what we found is there are amazing activities, and they even call them that in Seesaw, activities. Right. And they they've added a lot of things over the summer and over the last little bit that are making them a bit more robust. But by having our teachers really start in Canvas with that lesson and curating some more, a video or a graphic organizer or an article to read or even just a section of our text that they can read and then really tie into that lesson and that activity. And then what's nice is we are able to turn that activity back in to Canvas, and then the teacher can use SpeedGrader to grade the Seesaw activity and really give that student then that feedback to be able to expand that learning experience. And something else that we really like to do with this kind of model is it doesn't have to all be online. It could literally say in Canvas to open up your textbook and read page 31 and then come back and give me a short, what was the main idea of what you read? So it can be, or go to your notebook, go to your journal, physically write, take a picture, turn that picture in. So I think a lot of times people, teachers get caught up in it has to all be online. It has to all be in that digital space. And we kind of like to see that hybrid where, you may be reading the instructions, maybe it's a video of your teacher or an audio of your teacher telling you what to do, but then there's that offline piece that can really add to that experience. And we all still know that, for me, I like taking handwritten notes. I probably would have been the one that printed what they sent out today for our PL just so I could actually write on it. Right. Or I wrote in my journal as they were talking, because that helps me as a learner. But I think that's what's so nice is because so much of it can be put online and you can offer those different options, students are able to do what works for them. And be able to take more out of that experience than just like, okay, I'm going to do a quick drag and drop activity. I'm going to submit it and call it done. Right. We like to really think about how we can add value to that. And maybe it's through offline supplemental activities to that digital space.
And at the same time, those activities, maybe the drag and drop, maybe it still lives in Seesaw and it's just practice. And practice is great and they need a lot of practice. But then there are those specific or key learning experiences or pieces of evidence that we really want them to actually turn back in as their evidence of learning that we want to provide feedback on. So yes, some things will be done in Seesaw and stay in Seesaw that we can still look at as a quick formative, but then there are other things that we want them to submit as that evidence of learning.
Right.
A lot of our teachers want to grade everything because it's something they made the kids submit. They think they need to grade everything and they're just completely overwhelmed. But you remind them, what did you grade everything in the classroom? And so then they kind of go, oh, I don't have to grade it all, So I think that's a big part of it is just, like you said, some things are just practice. Right. And that's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Or even finding ways, even finding ways like within Canvas, you could use a Canvas quiz. And maybe it is something that you used to have to take home and actually physically hand grade. Can you put that into Canvas quiz that all of a sudden it's graded for you automatically? It's given the kid the feedback. You've gotten the data from it and you're done.
Yeah.
I was going to say the exact same thing, Carrie.
Oh, sorry. What you were going to say. We're in the same brain.
We have those people too.
Yeah, you find your people, right?
Exactly.
And what your Facebook group is all about. You got to find people.
Absolutely.
Yes. So what do you want to tell us that we haven't asked you? Do you have anything that for our...
Oh, the scaffolding piece, Lindsay, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah. We think about kind of all of the bright, shiny new tools that are coming out. And it seems now more than ever, more tools are being provided and being able to be used in our classrooms with our students. And it's especially hard to know which tool to really latch onto or use or what's going to be the best experience for our kiddos. And so we really try to focus in on some questions when we're coaching our coaches or coaching our teachers. You don't always need to use the bright, shiny tool. So we want to really get to the heart of what are we trying to accomplish with our students, And so one of the first questions we ask is, what are you trying to accomplish with this tool? One of the big ones right now for us is Jamboard. Are you wanting students to collaborate, or what's the point of it? And then really, what will students be doing during this learning experience, and what will you as the teacher be doing during this learning experience? And then really looking at, does this tool really provide a better approach, and does it make the learning experience more effective or efficient? And if we can answer yes to that, then that tool really is a great use of our time and great for our students to learn and navigate. But if not, then maybe that tool isn't going to elevate our learning or our teaching. And so kind of going through that process with our teachers to help decipher which tools do I latch onto. I can't do it all, but which ones are going to kind of give me the most bang for my buck right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and we sort of have to give credit where credit's due. Those questions came about from Lindsey and I read the book Bold School by Weston Kishner.
Oh, yeah.
And that truly, for us, like that epitomizes what blended learning is. It's taking those old school strategies and then looking and really evaluating, am I just using technology for technology's sake because I want to use it? Or am I really using it because it will enhance that lesson? It will do something more and add something more? Because honestly, sometimes the answer is no. And it is okay just to go back old school and do it how you would have done it. Of course, if you're in person. But even when we think about using those new bright, shiny tools, that's really, that book for us really helped us to kind of frame, okay, when we have these teachers coming to us and being tool minded, which isn't a bad thing, right? We want to be progressive and we want to be using those new tools. But when we have the tool in the forefront of our brain, what questions can we ask to kind of flip that and say, okay, what strategy are you wanting to use? What do you want your students to do? And then seeing if that tool is still the right fit. And in some instances, it may not be, in others, it might. And so it just kind of gave us a really good gauge on how to determine when it was right to use a tool and when it wasn't. And, in the book, he kind of takes you through the steps of, you want to identify the learning outcome and then, select the instructional strategy and then the tool. And so the tool kind of comes at the end. And then in the book, he even goes back to even looking at rigor and relevance and making sure that even the use of that tool is meeting the needs of the student. So, he's definitely influenced our work and, our even definition of blended learning. And that's really helped us when we're thinking about how to coach our teachers to use technology for more than just the tool.
Right.
Helping us identify what does blended learning look like in our classrooms. And it really is that baby step approach. And, our elementary teachers are kind of the experts when it comes to centers and stations. And so if we can really start with that baby step of creating that digital content station rotation and really focusing in on a learning experience that allows our students to kind of engage and create and apply, that's what we really want as kind of our first step into blended learning. And the goal is really to move from being those critical consumers to those creators as well.
Right.
And that's something, for our teachers, and the Facebook group is kind of to blame. You see these teachers posting these amazing things. And you're like, I want to do that. And you kind of forget all the stuff that went before that, and it takes a while to get there. I think back to my own first Canvas courses and yeah, I think I just had just assignments. I think that's all I use, assignments. And then, you start to see oh, I can use a page, I can use a discussion, I can use a quiz, and it's hard to think when you want your end goal to be here and you want to automatically just be rolling out the good stuff with your students, that sometimes the good stuff doesn't really matter to your students. They don't care if it's pretty. They don't, as long as it gets the job done, when they get to the course, they know what to do. That's really all that matters to the student. And as the teacher, that may be where you want to be, but really just kind of peeling back that curtain of, you're going to start the way back here. And, we get asked a lot, what do you wish you'd known, before starting Canvas? And truthfully, like I'm kind of glad I didn't know much, because I learned a lot through trial and error. And I probably now have a better understanding of Canvas because of that. Now, I know our teachers don't have that luxury in a pandemic to have the time to make mistakes where there's that higher pressure. But the truth is, just give yourself a whole bunch of grace. Learn one thing that you feel like you can utilize. And, maybe it is just, knowing the different submission types of an assignment, because then you can utilize that tool in multiple ways. And then once you've mastered that, your students have mastered it, then it's just adding it on into your own comfort and giving yourself that grace to go slow and use only maybe one or two things for a while, even though it might not feel like, oh my God, next door is doing A, B, and C, and I'm only doing A.
Right.
But, if at the end of the day, you can answer like, that was what was best for my students, and that still got us where we needed to be, it's okay to be simple. It's okay to not be using all the bells and whistles right now.
Yes. So powerful. Exactly right.
So.
It's okay if my Bitmoji classroom doesn't look like yours.
Or if I don't even have a Bitmoji classroom, that's okay too.
Right.
And Carrie is, a graphic designer. So you look at my courses compared to hers, and I'm like, wah, wah, wah. But mine are clean, basic, and simple. And hers are still that way. They're just a little bit prettier. But it was kind of through that productive struggle that I found my way and my method. And I still asked her a million questions when I was kind of creating my first course. But I learned through that productive struggle, and I found different ways than maybe she had told me. And then I shared my way with her, and we both became better through that experience. And
yes.
I love that about our Facebook group, because, ways that Carrie and I are designing or doing things in Canvas isn't always maybe the perfect way, but it works for us, and what works for you is just as great too.
Perfect. Hey, you know what? That reminds me. Tell us about your new Facebook page and your training that's there.
So, we couldn't just stop at a group. No, truthfully, this is going to sound a little weird, but when we post stuff, I feel like no one actually sees our posts anymore. The group has gotten so big, and we have so many posts in a day. And I don't know what Facebook's algorithm is, but, it's only my friends that are in the group that are liking my posts, and maybe just no one likes my posts. I don't know. But I used to get a ton more likes and a ton more comments on stuff. And so we were kind of missing that interaction, being able to know that people were seeing our stuff. And Facebook offers these pages. And so with the pages, you can actually see like analytics on a post and see who's really seeing it. And so we kind of started up a page that we're really hoping to utilize more to be able to kind of show some more tips and tricks with Canvas, and hopefully even shifting that more to even blended learning. And so it's just Canvas for Elementary with Lindsey or Carrie. Let me try again.
We're definitely
rewind that
in your bio.
The last time we did this, I couldn't remember my Twitter handle, and someone else, they had to edit that out too. So Sorry about that. So our Facebook Facebook page is Canvas for Elementary with Carrie and Lindsey. And we're really hoping to, kind of tag on with this 12 days. And Lindsey will talk a bit to that.
Yeah, we were so inspired by your 12 days of innovation. What an amazing idea. So the last 4 days, we've shared a Canvas tip or resource on our Facebook page. And then today, day 5, we're going to be giving away a copy of Bold School by Weston Kieschnick, because one is our favorite book, and it really helped fine-tune our goals with blended learning in our district and with our groups. So head on over to our Facebook page and look for the Bold School giveaway. You will not want to miss out on this, I promise.
That is so great, you guys. Okay, you're making me want to pull that book back off my shelf and reread it.
I had that last week, and I'm like, this is the one book on my shelf that has tabs and it's crinkled and highlights, and I don't do that often with a lot of books, but that's one that I probably need a new copy of.
Yeah, I'm definitely pulling it out and rereading.
Yeah, and then
Thank
we
you for
also,
that.
in the Canvas Commons, we developed a back to school Canvas basics that is essentially a student course. So it allows teachers to either pull it into their actual Canvas course or maybe even use it as an isolated Canvas course that kind of walks students through the different possibilities of submission types and maybe some things that they may be asked to do within Canvas to practice those skills. And we have little GIFs in there that kind of walk the students through the steps. We have a Chromebook version and an iPad version. So that way students can kind of get familiar with the tools in Canvas. And even if a teacher isn't feeling as comfortable with those tools, it's a way for them to allow students to experiment with that and see what that could look like. So, and that's in the Canvas Commons under Canvas or back to school Canvas basics.
That's
That
great.
may not sound like a really big thing, but it is. That is huge. Thank you guys for doing that, really.
You're welcome. We just had a lot of teachers saying, okay, how in the world am I going to teach my students how to do all these things when I'm not 100% confident? And this was our way of supporting them and for them to feel a little bit more confident, but for their kids to learn all of the clickety clicks as well. And it's been a great resource for our teachers, but also for our students. But I know that some of our virtual teachers have even linked it in their course. So families can go back and kind of look at it, the little GIFs or the videos to be like, okay, that's how we do that. It's kind of just that resource that you can always go back to as well.
And probably my favorite part of that course is we have like a companion guide that basically is like, I want to see this in SpeedGrader. What do I need to have my students do to see that? So that's probably, if you download it for no other reason, just to grab that companion guide, it's kind of helpful to see what's possible through the different submission types in Canvas. So
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much. Okay, anything else that we have forgotten to ask? You guys have been amazing.
We could
so
talk
fun.
all day, so you probably no. I don't think so. We are just, we are Canvas enthusiasts. We obviously, we love using Canvas and for all the different tools that it offers our students and our teachers. And we really are just so excited to see where we go once we are like a head above water, finally breathing, and where these tools can take us and allow the growth for our students in their learning journey. So.
Yes, absolutely. We feel exactly the same way. Yeah, we're just so grateful for you guys being with us on the 12 days. And can't wait for everyone else to get to see you around the world. And I will tell you, there are so many of our teachers that I think the Canvas for Elementary Teachers group saved them. They really talk about it. So thank you so much.
Hearing that. And thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. This has been so fun. And our districts are so similar in size and probably where we are with blended learning. So I feel like we should continue to kind of collaborate and partner together with this Canvas and blended learning journey.
Absolutely.
Like
yes, for sure.
Yes.
So, okay. Well, thank you so much for being with us. And wow, just really impressed by all that you're doing. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.